Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Sobriety and Everything Else. My name is Eric Andrew, and I'm coming to you from my studios, nestled in my, wait for it, dining room. Yes, you heard it correctly, my dining room. My name, again, is Eric Andrew. I am a recovery and life coach, and I use a mindfulness approach in both areas. And if you find that you are interested at all in either the recovery part or the life part, please email me at ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com or visit my website at ericandrewcoaching.com. I would love to work with you and get with you on what your needs might be, and we'll work it out and start getting you to move forward in your life, which is very important. Okay, so episode 3, let's get down to it. Episode 3 is going to be called Retreat. Yes, it's going to be called Retreat. Now, it's not retreat in terms of I give up, I retreat, I go home, that negative part of retreat. There obviously is a positive part of retreat that we could talk about, which might be at a later date. But the retreat I want to talk about is a retreat that you can go on. All right. So many of us get involved in different kinds of things. Maybe a lot of you have been on different types of retreats throughout your life. You could go on a spiritual retreat, whether it's with your church or in your own spiritual kind of concepts of what you look at as important, and go on those kind of retreats. You can go on retreats. I've been on retreats for recovery, where it's just a lot of recovery people on a retreat, learning some new techniques and tools. You can also have retreats that involve physicality, such as yoga or such as gym workouts, running retreats, those kinds of things. Certainly when we were younger, we went on all kinds of different types of retreats or camps. I think when we're younger, a lot of times it's called camp. We tend to call it retreat when we get older, for whatever reason. I guess it sounds a little older. I don't know. But anyway, I want to talk to you about a retreat that I actually went on this week. And I'm really talking to the men in the audience, right? One of my biggest goals is to focus on men. Why do you probably ask, well, why? Why do you want to focus on men? My reason for focusing on men is and I can only speak from my experience, but we tend to not want to talk. We tend to not want to discuss things that might be negative and going on in our lives. We tend to think that that's the way men operate. And maybe in our lives and the people we grew up with, the men in our lives that we grew up, our fathers, our grandfathers, our uncles, friends, friends of our parents, that we watched and emulated. Maybe we saw this kind of tough exterior. They were maybe even quiet, didn't say a whole lot. And we looked at that and modeled that. We thought, okay, this is the way it should be. We also probably heard from growing up with our friends, maybe even growing up with, if we were played any kind of sport, our coaches, just in general, how as you grow, how peers were acting towards people as a man or as a young man. And we start to emulate that. We hear, hey, just get up, bite your lip, keep going, dust yourself off. You got to be a man. You got to do the right thing. You can't be weak or be perceived as being weak, right? Well, let me tell you, all that's very exhausting. And when I came into recovery, that's something that I had to wrestle with, was how far do I go with being a quote unquote vulnerable kind of person? And what I found was that a lot of men that get to the place of recovery, or even get to the place of looking for different kinds of spirituality or different kinds of activities that would be positive in their life, I found that men were talking, that men were actually sharing, and they were being vulnerable, believe it or not. I also learned that people like that. People want to know what you're thinking. People want to know what you're feeling. I know I'm a heterosexual male. I know that women in my life were very positive in the idea of me sharing more. We're positive in the idea of learning more about me, because usually when we're vulnerable, that's when the true self or the authentic self comes out. It also takes a lot of pressure off when you can be honest and you can be truthful and you can be vulnerable. All right. So let's kind of lay a couple of ground rules for all of this, at least ground rules that I think are important. One, it's okay to share things that make us look, how do I put this? I think I'm putting this the wrong way. Let me try again. It's okay to share things that are not perfect. So things in our life, things that we're doing that we're not doing well. Maybe we're struggling with a substance, so that's the first thing I'm going to go to. Just because I am a recovery coach, I'm also in recovery myself. So a substance could be going on in our lives that might be really hindering our ability to do things, our ability to perform in the way that we want to, whether it's in our jobs, our relationships, as a parent, as a friend, whatever it might be. That can be very vulnerable when we allow that weakness, or what we're perceiving as a weakness, to come out. What I've learned is a lot of those things that we perceive as men to be weaknesses actually are a superpower. Yeah, believe it or not, when we are willing to admit that so let me just take recovery as a great example. When we are willing to admit that we are powerless over a substance, whatever that might be, we are showing strength. Yes, vulnerability is strength. I think it was Brene Brown that talked about this too, that vulnerability, being able to be vulnerable, allows us to be in the arena, right? Meaning the arena of life, to perform, to be a part of things. When we are closed off and we are not talking about things, we are very narrow. We're very small. We tend to stand on the sidelines because we don't want people to know anything. I have found that by being vulnerable, I have found that by talking about the things in my life that are difficult, that it made my life easier. It allowed that burden that I was carrying to go away, especially when I started digging into my trauma. That helped as well, because it really taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about how I was approaching life, and I needed that to change. But the only way that was going to change is for me to talk about it. All right. The other thing in this and being vulnerable is it allows you, by you being vulnerable, it invites others to be vulnerable. So that brings us to retreat. Right. So I went on a retreat this weekend. I went on a retreat at the Kripalu Institute in Massachusetts. It is a yoga meditation retreat center. And I went for a retreat called The Empowered Man. All right. And this was a group of men coming together. And basically what we were learning about, the major thing that we were learning about, was how to incorporate yoga and balance of our bodies into how we work out, whether we're in the gym or whether we're doing a workout at home. The guy who was running the retreat put us through a really strenuous workout. There was one day where we spent 3 hours in the workout with no break. It was tough, and my body was screaming. It was sore, but it was one of those good sores, like, you did something that was positive, because it was waking up muscles that I haven't been using. And that's, in my opinion, is the whole point of working out and getting in the gym and learning how to stretch and learning how to engage muscles that maybe you don't engage very often. Learning balance. Balance is such an important part of the whole idea of how we manage our lives. So, and balance in our bodies as well as balance in our minds. And I think one really supports the other. So I believe it's super important to have balance in both areas. So that's why I went on this retreat. But the Saturday evening part of the retreat was what I want to talk about. We did a circle. And what a circle is, probably some of you may know about this already, but a circle is where at least in this case, a bunch of guys sit around kind of facing each other in a circle, and they just talk. And they just bring up things that are on their minds, bring up things that are going on in their life that require support and are scary and are maybe putting them in positions of questioning even their own mortality or their own physical health, their mental health, these kinds of things. And I got to tell you, this group of men who met on Friday night and had gone through this workout and had talked a little bit with each other, but not a lot. We had a couple of breakout sessions where we paired up and we had to talk about certain things. So there was some conversation, but not a lot. Not a lot. I got to tell you, by Saturday night, so 24 hours later from the time we started a retreat, the things that were being shared by these men was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And it really showed me and taught me that there are men out there that are ready to present who they truly are, their authentic self, to each other. And they're willing, and this happened, they were willing to cry and let their emotions out. They were willing to let their frustrations out. So it wasn't all just sadness or crying because of fear or something like that. There was a lot of times that there was anger and frustration that came out. But it gave everybody in that circle an opportunity to do two things. One, to share themselves with each other in terms of how they think, in terms of what they were going through, in terms of those kinds of things. It also allowed them to listen and to hear that men out there are suffering, that we're all suffering, and suffering in terms of how we are approaching our lives, how we are up against certain things and not maybe really sure how to get through those moments in our life. And I found that refreshing. I found that so important to do. And I know that when I walked out of that room that night, I felt a burden off of me. Now, my approach in that circle was more about my goals here, like what I'm doing with the podcast, what I'm doing with my own recovery, what I'm doing with my own coaching business, all of that. And all of that for me is about giving back. So, okay. So I'm sure some of you are sitting there go, okay, wait a second, but you're going to charge me money for coaching. You're going to charge me for that. So how can you say that you're giving back? Well, first off, yes, you are correct. I went and I got a certification in coaching. I have a business. I had to put a business model together. I had to buy insurance. I had to set up a website. I had to do all these things, which I still have to pay on and do. And this is just the basics. So I'm not doing anything special yet. These are just the basics. So my bills that I pay for have to come from somewhere. Right now, it's coming from my own personal account, most of it. I have one client right now, and off and on I've had a couple other clients that, certainly pay a fee, and that fee helps to pay the bills. But most of the time I'm putting money into the business itself. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And for this reason, the goal here was to help people, especially men, but certainly in fact, let me just go back a bit. I am talking to men, but my clients, I've had 2 male clients and 2 female clients, right? One was kind of recovery life client. The other 2 female clients were life clients. And in fact, I still have one that I started with at the very beginning. So I work with both men and women, and I would love to do that. So if you're a woman and you're sitting out there and listening to this, and you don't have a man in your life that you think needs this kind of work or needs to hear this podcast, but you do, maybe you need to hear that, then, certainly please reach out and please ask. I would love to work with you as well. All right. So this isn't just about men, but this episode is kind of focused on men. I guess that's a good way to put it, right? This episode is focused on men, right? My biggest thing that I wanted to give back was this idea of being encouraged to speak up. When I first got into recovery, I had a lot of men in my life that had been in recovery for a while, had more time under their belt, had more seasoned experience in the world of recovery. And they kept telling me, you have to speak up. You have to let people know what you're thinking and what you're feeling. Right. And the first things that kind of happened for me was when I would feel a struggle where I really wanted to drink. That's when I would reach out. And I was with a online group. So they actually had a private Facebook page. They still have it. I don't know why I'm talking about it in past tense. I'm still with this group and they still have a Facebook page. But so we used to do, at least when I first started, we used to do a lot of video things on Facebook as well as just posting. And there were many times that I would be struggling, I would post. And when I would post something, I would immediately, and when I say immediately, I'm talking within minutes of posting, I would get feedback. Hey, hang in there. I'll give you a great example. I went to a baseball game with my cousins, and this is pretty early on in my sobriety journey. In fact, I would say it's within the first 6 months. So we're sitting at the game, and I happen to be sitting in between them. Now, both of my cousins still drink. And again, this isn't about that. This is just about that certainly they're going to partake in a drink at a baseball game. I used to do it. Probably any of you that have gone to sporting events have done it yourself. But I was recognizing I was really smelling it. Like I could smell it as it went past my face. I could smell it just in general. And I know one thing that happens in recovery, at least for me, was that my sense, my smelling sense, my ability to really smell aromas was really coming through. So I could really smell the beer. It would happen to be beer. And it was triggering me. It was making me like, oh, I want to be a part of the group. I want to have a drink with them. I want to feel like I'm at a baseball game, doing what guys do at a baseball game, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, no, I made this commitment. I really want to stay the course. If I can't do it here, where am I going to be able to do it? So I immediately pulled my phone out and I posted. And I said, hey guys, I'm struggling. I'm at a baseball game. People around me are drinking. I'm smelling it. And I'm really on edge right now. Please help. And like I said, immediately I started getting posts. And so I was looking at my phone, reading these posts. Hang in there. You got this, Eric. You're going to be fine. You can do hard things. I know you can do this. You've worked so hard. Keep going. You can get through this. Just hang in there. And those posts really helped me. Those posts really got me through that moment. And I didn't drink. I didn't buy beer. I actually stopped smelling it. So I wasn't focusing on it. I really made myself focus just on the game. And I enjoyed that process. So here's a moment, that example is a moment where I was vulnerable enough to speak up and say, hey, I'm in trouble. I need some help. And I got the help I needed, right? Also in the same group, we do a lot of online chats or meetings, if you want to call them meetings through Zoom. And we talk a lot about being open, and we get a lot of people, both men and women, on these chats that speak up. And it's so refreshing and feels like such a victory when I have somebody on a chat who's pretty new to the whole process of getting sober, and they speak up. And they say, hey, I'm new. This is my first chat, and I'm feeling this. I love that because they're getting it. They're understanding, hey, it's time to let go of the pain. It's time to let go of hiding and get this stuff out of me. Let this stuff go. And that was so important. So important. So if you're a guy and you're sitting out there and you're listening to this, and maybe you have a substance issue, or that you think you do, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're more like, hey, I'm really struggling. I just got done going through a really rough breakup, or I just lost my job. I'm kind of rudderless. I'm not really sure what I need to do. I need some help. Then, obviously in that case, I'm looking at you more from the perspective of being a life client, a life coach. This was a life coaching moment for me as a coach, but as for you, the same thing. Life coaching would be a benefit. And again, in that, what we're looking for is how can we move forward, or how can you move forward? What can we do? And what are some of the strategies and some of the things that we could work on to help you move forward in that and create a better life, even better than what it was before. All right. Now, if you're on the other side of the fence, if you are somebody who's struggling with a substance, especially alcohol, it's really more my focus. But I'm not going to turn somebody away who's struggling and who's reaching out. At least we can start a dialogue, right? But if you're struggling with a substance and you're at this place where you're either, let's say you're sober curious, that's kind of a word that's out there now, where you're dabbling in sobriety, maybe you're taking a month off here or there and you're trying to see where you fit with it, and is it something you think you could do long term. So if you're one of those people and you'd like more information from a coaching perspective, that's something that I do work on. Or maybe you are done. Maybe you're, I'll use this term, I'm not saying that this is necessarily where somebody is, but your addiction or your struggle, your alcohol abuse syndrome, whatever, however you want to look at it, you're just now done. You're done feeling bad. You're done with the hiding things. You're done with not being present all the time for your family or for your job. Maybe you lost a job and over your addiction or over your struggles with a substance, and you're wanting to figure out a way through that. Maybe you are somebody who is struggling with family because of your own struggles, and it's causing you not to be present. It's causing you to miss things. It's causing you to not give as much as you were giving to your family. Then I want to talk to you. Maybe you're just somebody who's struggling alone. Maybe nobody really knows except for you. Maybe, and this was me, maybe you're somebody who's gotten to a point where you drink alone. And what I mean by that is it doesn't mean you don't go out with your friends, but maybe you're able to control and have one or two drinks when you're out with your friends. But as soon as you're home, you get it on. You open up the fridge and you go to town on whatever you have there. Or you stop by the liquor store after you leave wherever you were, and you take it home and proceed to get drunk by yourself. And maybe you're keeping all of this quiet, and maybe you're starting to realize it is affecting your life. Now, you could know that just on your own, or unfortunately, maybe you've hit, and this was me, you hit a rock bottom. For me, it was this final DUI that really pushed me to the brink of the reality that I had to change. And if I didn't change, the alternative was if I got in trouble again, I was probably going to really consider ending it. And I don't, that scared me too, because I'm kind of a little bit of a baby about stuff like that. Anything that might hurt, I don't really want to do. So, but I was at that point, and that was scary. That was scary. So I think that if you were there in any of those scenarios, again, or maybe you're just sober curious. Maybe you're like, hey, what's this thing all about? I'd love to learn more. Please reach out. Please reach out, because I want to support you and I want to show you how you can regain that voice. And to me, the voice isn't just this, what you're listening to from me. Your voice is in everything that you do, right? In how you set boundaries and how you are present for your life and how you work and how you are a better husband, a better boyfriend, a better friend, how you show up at your job, and you're a better worker. You're on time. You're not calling out because you're hungover, and you're tired of those things. Maybe you work out, or maybe you're in a sport and you've kind of given that up and you're not been working on it very much as of late. This is your time to realize that, number one, you are not alone. You are not alone. All right. And I'm talking to men mainly here for this episode, but listen, I will say it again, if you are a woman and you're listening to this, or you identify as a woman, or maybe you identify as a man, wherever you're at, whoever you are, if you're listening to this and you're hearing this and you know this is something that you need to deal with, please reach out. Reach out. I'm going to leave my information down below, but I'm also going to say it to you one more time. So my website is ericandrewcoaching.com. And if you go there and you message me about wanting to get involved, I will give you a discount for sure. And we will also work on a discount for the way it works. So let me lay this out. The way it works is we will do a free consultation. So you reach out and say, hey, I want to schedule a free consultation. I will schedule that with you based on our time issues and what works and what doesn't work. And we will just talk, and I will talk to you about coaching. I will talk to you about what it's about and how it works and what your job in coaching is and what my job in coaching is. And I'm going to talk to you about what it isn't. It isn't therapy. So if you know that there's something going on that's more on a mental level, more, maybe it's depression or maybe it's really some trauma that happened in childhood that you just feel like you need somebody to work out with you first, then I would highly suggest look for a trauma specialist or look for a therapist. And I would also encourage maybe looking for a therapist that deals with substance abuse as well. Now, I know sometimes people, no, I want to do the other thing. And that's fine. Do that. If that's the way you want to do it, do it. But I can tell you in my own experience that there comes a point with therapy where you start to realize that, hey, my addiction or my issue with this substance does play a role in all of this. So maybe I need that help as well. So if you're not there where you feel like you need therapy first, but you think you just need a direction and you need some support and you need some encouragement, then I want to be that person for you. So if we do this free session, then the next step would be to decide that we're going to move forward. Now, you could say, hey, thank you very much for the free session. I learned a little bit about things, but I just don't think this is for me now. That's fine. Or you may decide, hey, I want to do this. So the way it works is there's 6 sessions. It's done like that. Really, with coaching, you have to at least have that amount of time to start the process. Now, many people stay after that and they'll sign up for another 6 sessions just because they're starting to realize that this is working for them and this is something they want. We can also create a situation where we do a check-in. So maybe you get to a point where you feel like you're really good, but you might say, hey, I'd like to do a once a month check-in or whatever. Again, I would do a big, huge discount with that. It would not be the price of a typical 1 session meeting. We would work that through, all right, and keep it very reasonable, but allow you to get the things that you want. And we could then go back over what had been going on for the month and where you're at and any kind of support that you might need. But again, if we get to that point of 6 sessions, I will give you a discount. So I have limited space. I really kind of am looking to go no further than 6 clients. So if you are interested, I would highly recommend that you go online to ericandrewcoaching.com, or you can email me if that's easier at ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com. So that's ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com. That's my email address that's outside of the website. Again, if you go to the website, there is a way that you can contact me right through the website in an email that will come directly to me from the website, and I will get notification of that, and that is fine as well. So again, the website is ericandrewcoaching.com. So please reach out. Please, guys, men, women, all of you, this is about you. Give yourself the grace. Give yourself the self-love to make the decision, I want to get better. I need to get better. And I need some help getting better. Be vulnerable so you can be strong. Be vulnerable so you can be strong. Okay, y'all, that takes us to the end of our episode today. Thank you very much for tuning in here on YouTube. Eventually, this is going to go to the podcast world, so it'll be on Apple Tunes and all that kind of stuff. I have not done that yet, but sometime in the course of the summer, I will probably be or early fall, I'll be setting that part up. So you'll be able to listen, or you can do the YouTube video like you're doing now and be able to see my happy face as I talk to you. All right. So I hope you're well. I hope you stay well. My plan is to have another episode in another couple of weeks, and we will get into a little bit. I know I had said in this episode we would do this, but I'd had this retreat and I really wanted to talk about it. So the next episode we'll get more into what is everything else and how do we define sobriety and recovery. How do I define sobriety and recovery? I have to keep saying we, like the world defines it the way I do. Some of them do, but I want to talk in terms of how I look at it. So anyway, that will be the next episode. That will be coming at you in a couple of weeks. Meantime, have a great couple of weeks. Please reach out. Also, oh, by the way, if let's just say that you're not yet really, surely, truly ready to have a formal meeting, you can still reach out to me in the website or reach out to me via the email and just, hey, I'm struggling. I just need some accountability or whatever. And I'll give you that talking back and forth a little bit through email. But, at some point we would have to make that decision, right? So anyway, have a great couple of weeks. I will see you all very soon. Eric Andrew, signing off.